I'd like to reconvene the Board of County Commissioners meeting. The time is approximately 1:30 in the afternoon. I'd like to ask the board for acceptance of approved publication.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. So, rules for public hearing. Our staff will present each item for consideration, which is staff's recommendation. The board will have an opportunity to ask questions of staff when the presentations are finished. The applicant will then have the opportunity to make their presentation. The board will have a chance to speak or ask questions once the presenter is finished. Member of the public that's interested in speaking for or against the issue, please fill out the yellow speaker form located in the lobby. Indicate the item, whether you're for or against it, and place it in the tray, or present it to Shani. Shani, can you raise your hand real quick? Thank you. Members of the public will only be allowed to speak one time per item. If you'd like to have your comments submitted to the record, please also fill out the yellow, not the green speaker form, and again in the tray, or please give it to Shani. Speakers should state their name and address clearly for the record, whether they're for or against it. The speaker will be given 3 minutes unless they're an official spokesperson for an organization or an HOA, and they'll be given 6 minutes. If a board member has questions regarding the speaker's comments, an opportunity will be given once the speaker time has expired. Speakers should limit their comments pertinent to the information regarding on the agenda. The clerk is required to obtain all documents, photographs, drawings, and anything that's presented to the board so we have a clear public record. So if you show it to us, please expect to leave it with the clerk. Once all speakers are heard, the applicant will be given the opportunity for rebuttal if necessary. It's not another presentation, it's just a rebuttal. Once we close public hearing, the matter will be put into the hands of the commissioners to discuss, recommend, or make a motion. Following a motion and a second, the board will be going into discussions and a vote will be cast. Commissioners who do not cast an objecting vote will be considered in voting in support of the motion. And for quasi-judicial public hearing portion, while the board welcomes all comments from all individuals that are interested in the proceedings, Florida law requires the board direction and quasi-judicial actions be supported by competent, sustainable evidence presented to the board during the public hearing of the application. Competent, sustainable evidence is such evidence as reasonable in mind that would accept and adequate to support a conclusion. There must be factual base in the record in supporting an opinion of testimony for both experts and non-expert witnesses. Is there anyone here that has any quasi-judicial ex parte communication? I do not either. I just wanted to make sure. Persons presenting testimony must rely on factual information. Anyone who presents any information to the board, as I was told before, a copy must be given to the clerk for the public record. And that is it. At this time, we'll go to the first item, which is item number 23, which is District 1. We'll hear from our staff at this time.
Good afternoon. Joy Giles, Senior Planner for the Planning and Development Division. For the record, I would like to state that the PowerPoint presentation presented today is a reflection of all the maps and material that is in your agenda package. This request is for a rezone from R1B single-family dwelling to R2 1 and 2 family dwelling on .24 acres located on the west side of South County Road 419, approximately 180 feet south of 8th Street. The applicant proposes to develop the subject property as a duplex in compliance with the R2 zoning classification. Oops. The property has a high-density residential future land use designation, which allows a maximum density of 20 dwelling units per net buildable acre and permits the requested R2 zoning classification. The site consists of 2 40-foot wide platted lots within the North Chulieto subdivision plat. The subject plat is considered an antiquated plat, whereas individual lots do not meet the minimum lot size and lot width requirements of the surrounding R2 zoning classification. However, the subject lots have been combined together to yield one lot size of 10,640 square feet. Pardon me. With a minimum lot size, or excuse me, a minimum building line of 80 feet. The requested R2 1 and 2 family dwelling zoning classification is consistent with the Seminole County Comprehensive Plan and is compatible with the surrounding trend of development in the area, which consists of R2 zoning, as you can see. There is actually a duplex to the south of the subject site and a duplex to the north as well. In compliance with the Seminole County Land Development Code, the applicant conducted a community meeting on August 4th, 2022. And the Planning and Zoning Commission met on September 7th, 2022, and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request. Staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners adopt the ordinance enacting a rezone from R1B to R2 on .24 acres located on the west side of South County Road 419 as requested. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? No? Thank you. This time we'll hear from the applicant. Is the applicant present? When you come to the podium, please give us your name and address for the record, sir.
Good afternoon. Nick Gluckman, 2041 Tillman Avenue, Winter Garden, Florida. Here for the applicant, we concur with staff, and we're really here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. If you could take a seat, we'll see if there's any questions. At this time, we'll go to the public. Shani, is there any written request? Thank you, Shani. Is there anyone in the public who would like to address this item? Anyone in the public, either for or against? I'm going to close public input. Public input's now closed. Any questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner?
just one. I noticed that it's a heavily wooded piece of property. I know this is not site plan, but I wanted, what your general plans are to protect as many trees as possible.
Yeah, so, right now, I believe we're going to have to get some form of clearing permit, but we're not there yet. I would imagine, I've been on the site a few times. There are a couple trees, which we'll have an arborist take a look at and see if they're worth saving, or if we can work around them. But they look to be more in the perimeter of the lot and not so much what I would call the building pad or the proposed building pads.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, this is a District 1 item. I'd like to make a motion to adopt the ordinance enacting a rezone from R1B, which is single-family dwelling, to R2, 1 and 2 family dwellings on 0.25 acres located on the west side of SCR 419, approximately 180 feet south of 8th Street, as presented here today.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This time, move on to the next item, which is item number 24, which is a District 2 item.
Yes, this is the Seminole Landing Small-Scale Land Use Map Amendment and Rezone. This is a request for a land use amendment from office to medium-density residential and a rezone from A1 agriculture to R3A multiple-family dwelling on 3.55 acres located on the west side of Ronald Reagan Boulevard, approximately a quarter mile south of County Home Road. The applicant proposes to develop a 26-unit townhome community on 3.55 acres with a maximum density of 9.85 dwelling units per net buildable acre. Each townhome dwelling unit will be a minimum of 1,498 square feet. As required by the Land Development Code, the applicant has provided a development plan showing the layout of the buildings, circulation, buffering, and parking. The requested medium-density residential feature land use designation allows a maximum density of 10 dwelling units per net buildable acre and permits the requested R3A zoning classification. There are approximately 0.92 acres of wetlands on the subject site, and the applicant does not propose any wetland impacts. A 15-foot minimum, 25-foot overall average upland buffer will be required around all wetlands, and a conservation easement dedicated to Seminole County will be required over those wetlands as well. The development will access onto Ronald Reagan Boulevard, which is classified as a major collector road. Access will be limited to a right-in, right-out. The applicant proposes a 15-foot wide landscape buffer adjacent to the east and a 10-foot wide buffer adjacent to the north and west. In addition to the required plantings, the developer will also construct a wall along the north perimeter adjacent to the existing residential development. Oops. There we go. The development will provide a minimum of 25% open space, and utilities will be provided by Seminole County. The intent of the requested medium-density residential featured land use designation is to provide for a range of residential uses at a higher density, serving as an effective transition between more intense urban development and low-density residential. Per the comprehensive plan, the land use should be located on or in proximity to arterial or collector roadways and provide convenient access to transit facilities. The development will access from Ronald Reagan Boulevard, which is a major collector road, and there is a Lynx bus stop located less than a half a mile to the north of the subject site. The R3A zoning classification permits 1-, 2-, and 3-story apartment buildings, townhomes, and condominiums. The subject zoning classification requires a minimum perimeter setback of 25 feet for 1-story buildings and 35 feet for 2-story buildings. The development plan proposes 2-story townhomes with a setback of 35 feet from the perimeter. The proposed development of 26 townhome units is consistent with the requested land use designation and compatible with the trend of development in the area, which consists of mixed development, commercial, and office future land use. In compliance with the Seminole County Land Development Code, the applicant did conduct a community meeting on December 20th, 2021. The Planning and Zoning Commission met on September 7th, 2022, and recommended approval of the request. The staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners adopt the proposed ordinance enacting a small-scale future land use map amendment from office to medium-density residential and adopt the associated ordinance enacting a rezone from A1 to R3A as requested. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Seeing none, we'll hear from the applicant. Is the applicant present?
My name is Stephen Ratcliffe, 751 East Chapman Road, Oviedo, Florida. I'm here as a consultant for the owner, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Thank you very much. This time we'll go to the public. Shani, any written request?
I do. I have one, sir. Her name is Mary Morehouse.
Okay. Ms. Morehouse, please take the podium. Please give us your name and address for the record.
My name is Mary Morehouse, 2916 Gipper Circle, Sanford, Florida, 32773. I live at Reagan Point.
Okay.
Agenda number 24 item.
Shani, can we start the clock, please?
Yes.
Okay. Go right ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. Chairman Delary, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to address you and to be heard. I stand before you as a homeowner, resident, mother, wife, and sister, and also a representative for our community through my service on our community's board of directors. Basically, I'm going to stay away from too much technicality because I know you've all seen the plans. Basically, we object to anything that is not built to coexist alongside us in continued peace and is not a positive impact on our community. This includes the building process from start to finish and the finished product, so to speak. Keeping the integrity of our community intact to mean that when you drive in and around our quarter-mile loop, your attention is drawn to the beauty of our little community and not to what is immediately next door. Likewise, 24 hours a day, that this remains the case. Currently, all residents enjoy a peaceful night's sleep and the usual and acceptable background noise of 1792 behind us and Ronald Reagan in front of us. They enjoy peace of mind when they come home knowing they are sustaining their privacy and safely and able to enjoy their home as a sanctuary from the outside world noise and traffic within a reasonable expectation that we all have for our home base. We don't object to development per se, but to any process that does not take extreme care, meticulous planning, and precise execution. I'm here to plead that all due diligence is performed in the event that this is approved. And I'm sorry, I'm a little bit not as prepared as I'd like to be, but what I would like to continue to say is that I have reviewed the reports and the opacity ratings projected or put forward on the north buffer zone, which abuts us immediately, and all the other buffer zones, the south, the west, Ronald Reagan, 1792, and the Conservancy area for those trees. And it seems that what is put forward at this time, opacity-wise, which I guess would be tree barriers, land barriers, space barriers, is minimal on our north buffer zone, which abuts the back of our community in that picture, by half almost on every other area. So we would like to make sure that we request that, should this be approved, that buffer zone is increased with that opacity rating higher, meaning tree barrier, space barrier, wall barrier, and buffers put in place so that our residents can maintain their privacy, their peace of mind to be able to come home and rest easy, as we all like to do, within reason. We understand nothing's isolated and nothing's going to be perfectly quiet, but with continued range of where we currently exist. The other very large concern with that is that on that north buffer zone is quite a large area of canopy of very high trees, 4 stories high possibly. They definitely poke out above our homes on that back end. And in order to grade the elevation down close to meet us, because it's about, once you come 5 feet out our past back fence perimeter, there's a steep incline, at least 13, possibly 15 feet rising above that. And so our concern is that not only for the integrity and the maintenance of the trees and any natural green space that is already existing, in order for this build to take place, that will have to be graded down. In the plans, it shows all those trees will be removed. And so the elevation difference during the process and after the process, we would like to ensure that our concern is that does not impact our back homes with any landslides, earth shifts, especially given what can occur throughout this process and after, that we maintain our current insurance of stability there and safety for the homes on that back corner.
Ma'am, as your time's expired.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening and hearing me out, and we appreciate you and all your service. Thank you so much. Mr. Zambauer, you are, oh, he's not here. He said we're District 2.
Daughter's wedding, so we give him the pass.
We give him a pass. And again, I wish you all safety and your families and your loved ones and everyone in all your districts and everywhere in Florida. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Constantine, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a question both of the young lady and as Joy also.
The resident you're talking about?
Yes, the
Ma'am,
young lady.
Commissioner has a question.
Joy, you said how much there's 3.55 acres, and for some reason I heard something like 9 acres of wetlands.
It's .92.
0.92. So nearly an acre is wetlands of the 3.55 acres.
Yes,
So it's really 2.63 acres
of buildable property, yes.
of buildable property. So on 2.6 acres, we're putting 26 units, not 3.55. So we're really looking at about 13 plus, or about 13 units an acre on that. The property to the north, or in this case, I believe, if you look at that picture, ma'am, those homes above there are yours,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
What is that zoning and land, units per acre there, please?
Yes. So that property is actually within the city of Sanford. It's a little odd because it has commercial
Joy, I don't
land
think your
use.
microphone's on.
Yeah, we can't hear you well.
Come over here. Pardon me. Thank you. So that site is within the city of Sanford. It has a commercial land use and a commercial zoning. I'm not really sure how that happened, but that is what currently exists. Those lots are 40, the minimum lot width is 40 feet wide by 80 feet.
Again, so I'm following, I'm just trying to continue through this. So
Yes.
you don't know what the units per acre are because it's zoned commercial?
Well, the units per acre are, I did an approximate estimate because I didn't have the exact acreage for the road and such, but it's approximately a little over 8 units per acre on that site. This subject site for the rezone is actually 9.98
But you
dwelling
don't,
units
but
per
when we calculate zoning and density, we don't calculate wetlands with it.
That's correct.
So 3.55 units are buildable units, or buildable acres? Because you said .92 is wetlands.
Wetlands, yes.
Of the 3.99? So now it's 2.63. And 2.63 with 26 units is a lot more than, I mean, it's like 12. I'm doing off the top of my head, 12 units an acre. I mean, at 3.55, it is 9.85. But if you're taking out the wetlands, then it's more like, less the wetlands, it's more like 12 units an acre. I'm just trying to get the numbers right here.
Bear with me just one second. I'm just going to double check on the plan real quick.
And then I have a few other questions.
So,
Rebecca, I may have an easier question for you. Miss Rebecca, can you come down for a moment?
Can't see that.
This may help out Joy. In this part of the county, I thought we did not exclude wetlands and roads and stuff.
We always exclude wetlands from net buildable.
Always exclude.
This is within the urban core, so we do not exclude the right-of-way from the net
Okay.
buildable.
That's just want to make sure.
Yes. I'm having a hard time seeing without my glasses.
Commissioner Lockhart?
while they're looking for that, using,
Okay, it's 9.85 for the density. For the buildable land, it's 9.85 units.
So the 3.55 is the usable land?
no.
Thank you.
26 divided by,
2.64. 2.64 is the buildable property.
Okay. Go ahead.
Commissioner Lockhart?
So really dangerous doing math on the dais, but if I take the 2.64 and I multiply it by 10, I get 26.3.
You get 26.4.
Well, okay, whatever, I did it, and my Samsung told me 26.3, but anyway, so I don't know what we're calculating toward, but
I'm
But
just
it
trying to
meets
get the
the-
right numbers.
The
That's
math
all.
works.
the math,
Yeah,
from my
the
perspective, the math works.
The math
It's
works,
26 units, and the
Yes.
maximum density is the 9.85.
Commissioner Constantine, you want to follow up with your question, or are you done?
Well, okay, taking that's 9 point, again, I'm just trying to, get the numbers right. The other thing is, as we have all concerned with, how they go in, oh, we're going to protect the trees, and then everything is clear cut. And, I just like the previous gentleman came up and said, well, we'll see how many trees actually need to be saved, whatever he said. It didn't give me a lot of comfort. I know we have new regulations. The resident was concerned about the buffering with the trees on that, she called it the north side. Have we made any consideration for that?
At this point in time, because this is just a concept plan, it's not a plan development with a master development plan where they have to have more detail. It's just a concept plan. We have not gotten into the engineering side of it. We are aware that there is a very big slope on the north perimeter, so that's something that's going to have to be addressed. We're not sure what trees could possibly be saved at this point in time until we get a tree survey, and also we understand that the true elevation of the site.
So right now, we're just with the public. Is there any more questions for the public before we...
So,
We'll get to staff in a minute. I just
Okay.
want to stay with the public.
I think I'm respectfully, if I'm speaking for a group, I get 6.
I can't hear you, ma'am. If you can go to the
Come to the
microphone.
microphone.
I didn't check the clock, but if I'm speaking for a group, I thought I get 6 minutes?
You didn't ask for that, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I just thought it was protocol. I apologize for that.
It's okay.
Could I take like another minute? Yeah, and really, just to readdress that, any wetlands, and we saw the conceptual plan that's been approved so far, that's being preserved is opposite of us. So everything behind us is what will go away, according to the plans. And so our ultimate reservation with this being there is not only the use, what's going in there being too much for that small space, the proximity of it to us on that end. As Mr. Constantine mentioned, and that has happened to us recently, not with this developer, not with this parcel, trees being removed in a manner that wasn't preconceived, it just kind of happened. And so preserving really, and I'm sure you will all understand speaking to this, privacy, the sound and noise barrier, and just overall quality of life throughout the process and after for what will be put there in such close proximity on that. And that's what's on the plan. It's designated as a north buffer zone. Will impact us greatly. And so that's where we're asking for the consideration and careful kind of monitoring, checking, maybe driving by, seeing yourself what you see. I don't know if it's protocol or not, if it's okay or not, or if anyone's interested, but I did print out for our board members, for our commission members, our code to get in the gate, and where you can stand just to see exactly what we're talking about, and it'll take you 3 minutes to drive in and drive out, if it so pleases you to do that. And I would love to pass it on to you. But yeah, really, we are sensible, we are reasonable, we understand that the area is to be developed, but our concern is how and the process of it and the end result, with consideration to the fact that, yay, there's more housing, but there's existing community right there. And so that's where we would just like the consideration to go. And I would like to give quick, if I could, indulgence, great compliments to Joy Giles and to Seminole County. In general, we have had nothing but kind reception, responsiveness, and we have appreciated that equal time. And we know that her and her office and the engineers are working the best they can, and hopefully, should this happen, that it will continue on with that. So I would like to be fair in that and give thanks for that. So thank you, Joy. It's a pleasure to actually meet her in person. She's awesome. But thank you again, and I'll let you be with that. And could I give you those papers in case you're interested?
If you just give it to the clerk?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. And thank you again for your kind indulgence. I appreciate it.
So I just want to make sure that you're about to hand over the code to the subdivision into public record.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
You don't want to do that.
Could I just give you, okay, so I can...
You don't want to read it out loud.
Yeah, and the rest is the address that would get you. Yeah, I could do that. I didn't think about that. I thought I was personally handling something.
Oh, no.
Everything is public record.
I understand. Thank you so much.
Everything you say here today or do today is
It's
public.
totally transparent, as in our meetings, on a much junior level. So thank you.
You don't want to go back to your meeting after you hand out the codes.
No.
Just saying.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Constantine is exactly on point with our concerns as far as green space and the best use, and to really consider whether this is...
Thank you,
fits that
ma'am.
bill. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions for the citizen? Okay. Shani, is there any other written request? Is there anyone else in the audience that'd like to address the board on this item, either for or against? I'm going to close public input. Public input's now closed. Now we'll go to the board. Commissioner Herr, we'll come down the line.
Could you actually put up the plan that shows what the units will look like and how they sit on that? There you go.
Here we go.
A little harder to see up there than from my screen right here.
Put it on the overhead.
No,
Anybody
that's
zoom-
okay.
Anybody zoom that in a little bit?
So I can probably talk you through this. So do you see the triangle up? If you look at the flat line, it's a box above, that's the neighborhood up there.
Yes.
If you look at the horizontal line and that triangle that's there, that's a pond.
Yes.
So you're asking to save trees where a pond is. I just want to point out that I'm not sure that that's what we want, because we want the water to be retained on that property.
Depending on the slope of the pond and the width of the flat area itself, that will determine what can go there in that area.
Okay, and then just clarify for us the orientation. And these are proposed townhomes, so they're to be owned, not rented. I mean,
So-
a townhome owner could rent that out.
So at this point in time, the developer does not have plans to plat the community. He's going to rent the community. If he were to plat, or if he were to sell the townhomes fee simple, he would have to come in for a plat
Okay.
for the property.
I was not clear on that, so I appreciate that. And then are this looks to me like they're loading from the road. So it's drive into some sort of a car holder,
So,
which I'm not going to tell you what that is, but it's either a carport or a garage or something.
garage, yes.
And so it is the front of those townhomes that are overlooking the pond that then backs up to this neighborhood.
So the backside of the townhomes will be facing the pond, and the fronts will be facing the interior road.
Okay, it looks different than that, so it's the back, so it would be their screened-in porches or whatever that may be, which may be even better, because then you're not seeing traffic.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lockhart?
Joy, if the owner of this property wanted to build commercial, what could they build there and what would their process be?
So they would have to request a land use amendment to commercial with commercial zoning because it's currently office.
I'm sorry, office.
Office.
My apologies. If the current owner wanted to build office, what would their process be? Which is what it's currently zoned as.
They would come in for site plan.
And would it come to this board at all?
It would not. Site plan is staff reviewed and approved.
And would we be talking about,
Forgive me, though, it is A1, so they would have to do a rezone. So
Okay.
the rezone would come to the board, but no plan would be required.
okay. So we wouldn't be talking about trees, we wouldn't be talking about,
No.
okay. With the property being built and whatever it is, whether it would be townhomes or an office, there would be disruption to anyone that was around it. And we have a process in place for monitoring building. And I know that you are not the person who is a part of that process, but maybe someone could just kind of walk through for the sake of the community to know, what I'm hearing is the concern is, where are the checks and balances? Who's going to come out here and look and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing? Can you just walk through someone for me what that looks like?
Sure. So at site plan review, Public Works Engineering will be reviewing it for all of the nitty-gritty, for the slope, for determination of what can and cannot be saved based on required grading and so forth. So they will be reviewing all of that at time of final engineering to determine what would be best for the site with as least little impact as possible to any adjacent site.
And I think the question I heard and the concern was, who's going to be boots on the ground, eyes on the property while the work is being done?
So that would be the Public Works Engineering inspectors.
And so we have so what I'm trying to get you to tell
Yes.
the
Yes, we do
community
have a
is that we have a
process.
process in place, and people go out on site and
That's
they
correct.
review it,
So
and
staff reviews the plan. Staff reviews the plan itself and then goes out to the field during construction to make sure that everything that's occurring during construction is cohesive with the plan and with the land development code.
okay. And if the owner of the property wanted to build this as a PD instead of straight zoning, how would that be different for us, as sitting up here talking about some of the things we're talking about?
So if this were a PD, this development plan would be, this is, and I do want to point out that this is a pretty detailed development plan for a concept plan. So the PD master development plan would be similar to what we see now. There would also be a development order associated with that plan, and the development order would have the conditions of approval that the developer would have to adhere to. Because it's going to be a site plan, the conditions that they have to adhere to are already in the land development code under the site plan regulations.
So do we have the ability as a board to put any additional conditions on this as they're presenting it now with the application the way it is?
I'm going to defer that to the county attorney.
This is a straight zoning, so conditions will not attach.
Okay.
We cannot
So-
have conditional zoning.
So whatever we have in the land development code for this zoning is what this developer is permitted, entitled to do.
That is correct.
And if he had decided to come in with a plan development instead, then we would have the ability to do some negotiation and put some requirements in the development order.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
But again, we cannot force a developer to come in and force him to do a PD.
Right.
If straight zoning is allowed, he's allowed to pursue that. We cannot require a PD. Just wanted to make that on the record.
Yes, that is exactly right. And so the person who owns the property has the choice of how they would like, what type of application they would like to make. And if they wanted to come in with a PD, then all of the opportunities that we would have to say, we want an additional buffer, we want these trees to be saved, we want, what that would come with the PD, potentially. But we don't get that with straight zoning. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to mention briefly, if I may, that the development to the north, there is, I believe it's either a 10-foot wide or a 15-foot wide, it escapes me at this moment, but a buffer between these two developments. So Public Works Engineering is going to be looking very carefully at the elevation to make sure that what's being done on this development does not impact the existing buffer to the north.
Wonderful, thank you.
Commissioner Constantine?
Thank you. And so, since we're only talking about zoning, and I understood that, even though that was a great education for people that are,
Well, we just
talking
seem
about
to
it.
talk about it a lot, so I thought
We
we'd
do,
talk
and
about it some more.
I'm glad we do, because I think that gives not only ourselves, but also the people that are listening, a good, information. But that doesn't change the fact that the site plan and everything can be, as you zone, the developer has the right to do the site plan, and we can ask him or her different questions. And the concern that I had, again, in the site plan, as I saw, which, we're working on, is just to make sure that the interests of the citizens to the north, are taken into consideration. And that would include the slope as well as much buffering as can possibly done, because it is the choice in doing the site plan. And of course, as Commissioner Herr pointed out, we certainly want to protect the wetlands and the buffering around the wetlands. So, that 0.92 acres is certainly important that we protect it. So that's what I wanted to make sure of. I'm not concerned about the zoning. I am concerned of just, as we are doing the site plan, that we take these things into consideration, and I see that Ms. Rebecca is going to tell us that she will.
Yeah, if it's okay, I just wanted to add really quickly on that note, for the record, Rebecca Hammock, Development Services Director, they are required to provide replacement trees for the trees that they do remove. So that area adjacent to the Reagan Point subdivision would be a good area to put replacement trees. And so when we review their landscape plan, we can, make sure that we take care to look at that area, make sure that the grading isn't going to damage their existing buffer. They are proposing a wall in that area, so we can talk with them about a precast wall, something that doesn't have footers so it doesn't damage the root systems. And then we can look at hopefully working with the developer to put a lot of their replacement trees in that area.
And Mr. Chairman, I think all that information, I think, makes the resident that is here representing her community much more comfortable.
Rebecca, I have a question for you, and I'm not going to discuss the zoning. I just want to discuss, when it talks about elevation change, you'll be addressing that to what degree?
So Public Works Engineering will be...
You brought it up, not me.
Sure.
You talked about the elevation change. And since you brought it up, I'd like for you to expound on that, about what do you see that happening?
So it depends on how much fill needs to be brought into the property and what the stormwater requirements will be, and how the drainage flows. It does seem like the drainage is flowing towards the Reagan Point subdivision, since they're proposing the pond in that area. So it seems like that's the lower. So this may be, the actual construction may be at a higher elevation. Reagan Point is a pretty new subdivision in itself, so they would be subject to the new engineering standards standards as well. But I don't know if there's an existing elevation change between the two properties now. Joy, I don't know if you can speak to that more than I can.
And Ms. Rebecca, the reason why I'm bringing it up, because there are some photos in our packet that alludes to the fact that this property is higher than the surrounding areas.
Okay, and the applicant said that he can speak to that as well.
If someone could, because in looking at the photos, who's ever standing there, you could see his knees. And I'm just, since you brought it up, I'd like to know how it's going to be addressed.
Oh, with the fence, he's much higher than the fence, okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah, over the last couple of months, we've worked with Joy's office, and we have agreed to install a wall there. And it will be one of those sectional walls that it doesn't affect root systems and stuff. With reference to the elevations, actually, our finished floor elevation will be at or below what the Reagan Point subdivision's finished floor elevations will be. So the natural flow, if you look at the site, it goes up and then it goes really down into the wetlands. So what we're going to do is actually cut that elevation so it ends up being an angle from Reagan Point down to the wetlands. And at last count, there was like 40,000 trucks of dirt coming out of there, and that would remove that elevation.
That's what I wanted to hear, sir.
Yes, that's what's coming out.
Thank you. Okay, direction from the board. Recommendations?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. We'll now go on to item number 25.
Item 25 is the Stockbridge Small-Scale Lane Use Map Amendment and PD Major Amendment Rezone. This is a request for a land use amendment from plan development to plan development and rezone from PD plan development to PD plan development on 2.22 acres located at the southeast corner of Sand Lake Road and Line Drive. The applicant is requesting a land use amendment and major amendment rezone on two parcels that total 2.22 acres for the purpose of expanding a parking lot for an existing church. The subject 1.59 acre parcel is known as Tract 7 of the Stockbridge PD, allowing for office and church uses. The site is currently developed as a church. The subject .63 acre parcel is known as the Line Drive PD, approved in 2018 for a 4,600 square foot office. However, the site was not developed. The applicant proposes to combine the parcels together and expand the existing church parking lot. The development supports the objectives of the PD zoning designation by providing the minimum 25% open space for the overall PD and providing perimeter landscape buffers of 10 feet along the west, south, and east perimeter. In compliance with the Seminole County Land Development Code, the applicant conducted a community meeting on February 10th, 2022. The Planning and Zoning Commission met on August 3rd, 2022, and voted unanimously to recommend approval. Staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners adopt the proposed ordinance enacting a small-scale land use map amendment from plan development to plan development and adopt the associated ordinance enacting a rezone from PD plan development to PD plan development on 2.22 acres as requested. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant here? Is the applicant present? Please have the...
I do not see the applicant present.
Please have the record show the applicant's not present. Is anyone, Shane, you have a written request?
No, sir.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that'd like to speak either for or against this? For or against this before we close the public input? Public input's now closed. This is a District 3 item. Commissioner Constantine.
Move approval of the planned unit development change.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The motion passes. That's the end of our quasi-judicial. Now we'll go into public hearing legislative. Staff is asking for a continuance because we made a motion to have a work session on October the 18th.
Are we discussing or are you asking for a motion?
They're asking for us to continue this.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak to continuance?
Did we already do this?
Shane, do I have any written request?
No, sir.
Anyone in the audience here that would like to speak for the continuance, either for or against, before I close public input? Seeing none, we'll close public input. We have a motion of continuance to the 18th. All in favor of the motion, say by saying I'm sorry.
Can I clarify that we're not moving it to the 18th for a vote, but we're doing a work session on it?
correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
And that's why I
Right.
said work session.
Right, and then at the work session, a new formal date for the consideration of the ordinance will be generated. And again, it may necessitate another work session, so we don't have a specific date for the ordinance consideration at this time.
Thank you.
Since it was advertised, we have to do it this way.
I understand.
I know that. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. We'll now go to the county manager report. Mr. Applegate?
This morning, I asked for a 60-day extension for Recovery House. I'd like to extend that to January 5. I checked with John Dredge, and he has absolutely no problem with it.
Okay. Is there a motion to amend the earlier vote?
I move to amend it to grant the extension as discussed.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion? Anyone in the public? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Mr. Applegate?
Nothing else.
Okay. Mr. Chipak?
No report from the county attorney's office at this time.
We'll now go on to Commissioners, District 5.
Yes, Commissioners, I'll keep it brief. Just a short update about the rescue outreach mission. As you know, it's 115 beds. We have crossed the 100 occupancy rate multiple times over the past several months. We're averaging about 80, but the numbers, the averages are on a steady incline, as we all expected, which is why we did what we did. But I just want to report back. We are on track to house more people this year. As a matter of fact, so far, year-to-date, we've housed more people than we did in all of the previous years. So the work that they're doing is working extremely well. And we have also, Alan and crew is keeping them involved in terms of what is happening with the hurricane and notifications. So I think they are on standby. They are having their first fundraiser since all of this started, well before I got here, and they already have sponsors to include Advent Health, Orlando Health, Wharton Smith, Orlando Law Group, and Highland. And our sponsorship will be met with a matching fund from Florida Blue. And so that is, it's amazing news that the ask is being received nicely. The fundraiser is on November 9th. It is a luncheon. There is no free lunch. You will be asked for money. I hope you will all attend and share your treasure with them. And with that, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. District 2, Commissioner Zimbauer is at his daughter's wedding, so he will not be, he's not here today. We wish his daughter congratulations, and looking forward to hear from Commissioner Zimbauer on the wedding when he comes back. District 4?
All right, thank you so much. I also had ROM on my list of things to mention because I'm going to be a table host and would love to have anyone who was interested in helping to support that organization join me as well. So mark your calendars for sure. This last week, the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council, we had shifting in elected officials that serve in various leadership capacities, and it was I'm going to call it my turn to be chairman of that organization, and I'm excited about it. We have another great group of folks from around the region. Julian Green from Wildwood, representing Sumter County, Peggy Chowdhury from Osceola County, Mindy Gibson from Brevard County. She's a Satellite Beach City Councilwoman, Emily Bonilla as past chair from Orange County, Doug Shields, who's a commissioner from Lake County, and Craig Curry, who is a Marion County commissioner, all serving on the executive committee for the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council. So it's a very diverse group regionally and philosophically, and I'm excited about what this next year is going to look like. A lot of opportunities, particularly around sustainability. One of the items that we've talked about is a program called Sustainable Floridians, which is run by the University of Florida Program for Resource Efficient Communities, also known as PREC, a lot of acronyms in that organization. But I had a briefing with their director, Pierce Jones, and Jennison Kipp, and it was an absolutely enlightening, encouraging, insightful, more than an hour probably long Zoom meeting that we had, and it's caused me to do a lot more research and be curious about the programs that they offer. And I think I've forwarded on to some of our staff members the opportunity to participate in some of their conferences and perhaps even do a field trip up to Gainesville, just a day trip, talking about what that might look like and how many of us might be able to participate. It's truly innovative what they are doing, and for counties to have the opportunity to participate and be bring this type of thought process that is not homegrown. We didn't invent it. It's something that is a proven best practices out of University of Florida, I think would be really cool, and something that each one of us talks about in some way, shape, or form up on this dais. And to know that the University of Florida and their program for resource-efficient communities is already doing this, I just thought what a great opportunity to learn from them. So I will be asking my office to circulate opportunities to set up a field trip. And of course, through the county attorney's office, any sunshine opportunities that might present themselves, I'm sure we can figure out a way to do a field trip and be compliant. Okay. So that was that. The Florida Association of Counties, and I'm sure Commissioner Constantine is going to talk about the details of that, but I will tell you it was a fantastic conference. Commissioner Constantine is doing a wonderful job as president. We were down in Miami. I'm not a big city girl. We went to dinner one night. It was 3.1 miles from our hotel, and it took us 45 minutes to get there. So I was happy raining. So I was happy to get back to Seminole County. But always a fantastic event. Always learned something. Had a chance to talk to commissioners, including Jerry Demings, of course, who is right. He's our next door neighbor. I never get a chance to see him here in the region, but we had a chance to talk at this conference. So I'll hand it over to Commissioner Constantine to talk about more details for sure. And one last thing, just thank you to our team, everyone who has a role in getting prepared for Hurricane Ian. Our county's been through this before. We'll go through it again, but you can never say thank you enough to the incredible professionals that we have. We are very, very fortunate, and thank you to everyone, and stay safe.
Okay. Thank you. District 3?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioner Lockhart, because, I don't need to have to say too much more about that because you gave a great presentation. I will say this concerning our emergency preparedness. At the conference was the director of the emergency preparedness for the state of Florida, and I'm not going to say in confidence, but, in private conversation, he just looked at me and he said, we've hired a lot of people up in Tallahassee, but we've been trying to get Alan Harris for a long, long time, and he just refuses to go. You are very lucky to have him. And I just wanted all of you to know that was a very nice thing for him to say, but I think it was also very true, and we all understand how lucky we are to have Alan. At the Florida Association of Counties, we had a series of meetings concerning policy, and Commissioner Lockhart and I got to spend a good deal of time talking about that in conference, in the sunshine, of course. The next meetings will be held in Pinellas County, St. Petersburg, November 30th through December 2nd, which will be when the final adoption of the policies will be held. And I would suggest, as Commissioner Lockhart said, that any of you that can go, I think you would have not only learn a great deal, but also it's always wonderful, and you get so many ideas in meeting other commissioners from all over the state of Florida. During that meeting, we, above and beyond the conference schedule, I set up something with Brightline to have commissioners that will be affected in the next couple of years or more to have a trip on the Bright Line from Miami to Fort Lauderdale and back again. Commissioner Lockhart and I both attended from Seminole. We had a commissioner from Hillsborough, Pinellas, Osceola, Volusia, and Pasco counties, remembering that the Bright Line will be going on to Tampa, all of which were extremely impressed with the quality of service, the efficiency, clearly the stations, or the station there at both Fort Lauderdale as well as Miami were beautiful, and they're saying the one in Orlando is going to be even nicer. But it gave us an opportunity to kind of look what can happen and what will be when that high-speed train gets to Orlando and all the other auxiliary benefits that can happen from it. On the 20th, I was fortunate enough to attend the Foundation for Seminole State Celebration of Giving. Again, I don't have to say to any of you the amenity that we have in Seminole State, and clearly the foundation is the financial arm of that, and it was wonderful, as well as some of the new board members were there in attendance. On the 21st, Commissioner Lockhart's already talked about the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council meeting. We were in Kissimmee, and that was where the meeting held. I think it's important to notice, because we always talk about regionalism and how it's important that we are, this county leads in many cases. In the 10 years that I've been on the Regional Planning Council, 3 of us have been chairman of that. And, you know, it was Commissioner Carey at one point, myself, and then I was chairman of the state, and now Commissioner Lockhart. So I think that in a 9-county region, we are well represented. And I congratulate you on your selection, one in which I supported strongly from the very beginning to get you on the board. The weather permitting, the German American Society will have its annual Oktoberfest on October 1st, which is Saturday. It's kind of interesting because I believe that when it comes to a city, it's between Longwood, Castleberry, and Altamont Springs. Their area. It's an unincorporated, but it's like right in the middle of those 3, and I believe it's in Commissioner Lockhart's district. But if you have never attended it, it is another unique event that we have here in Seminole County that is, they do it twice. We do it October 1st and October 22nd, and you would never, in years, imagine where it is. You know, you go into Orange Street there off of, I can't even remember the street, but, and all of a sudden this big open area comes out, and it's the German American Society. So if anybody has the chance to do that, that would be great. And with that, I think I'll just end it there.
Thank you. Under my reports, first of all, I want to congratulate Commissioner Lockhart for being appointed the chairman of the Regional Council. I think that's very important. As Constantine stated, I think your leadership will pay back big dividends for us regionally. Also want to congratulate Commissioner Herr because she just celebrated another birthday.
Yay, happy birthday.
It's not what she does. So
Why not? What's wrong with celebrating birthday?
No, you can sing to me if you want. Every day you wake up, it's a gift.
It is.
God bless America.
Amen. Just wanted to say happy birthday.
I'm willing to
you.
celebrate all month long.
I think it's all good.
Thank you.
So,
I freaked out a little bit because I thought, oh my gosh, what did I just get nominated to do? That was the
going
look
at?
I gave
Wish
you.
happy
What? I'm not.
birthday.
No, I haven't.
I mean, it's another trip
Thank
around
you.
the sun. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Relax, everyone. I also wanted to report that during the Sunrail meeting, the Sunrail board did approve option 3 and also approved the resolution that we approved for the Sunshine Corridor. And I wanted to thank both Paul Chipok and John Dredge for the hard work and their staffs. It's nice to see things actually taking place. I want to congratulate you both, Paul and John. I know John Dredge is not here because he's busy with his staff getting prepared for the hurricane. There are a couple of appointments I'd like to do from the Metro Plan perspective as well as Sunrail, and I'd like to do it in one motion if that's okay. And this is for the Community Advisory Committee and also the Sunrail Advisory Committee for the citizens. So I'd like to appoint Patricia Mascott to the Metro Plan CAC Community Advisory Committee to replace the vacancy appointment for a term expiring January 1, 2024. And with that, the motion would include a resolution of appreciation for Kyle Longville for her services on the Metro Plan CAC, and the reappointment to Miss Dorothy O'Brien to the Sunrail Advisory Committee for a 2-year term starting September 27, 2022.
Second.
Commissioner Lockhart, there's a question?
Yeah, no, that's okay. No, it's fine. So are these board appointments, or these are chairman appointments, or?
They can be board appointments. It's basically, there's the citizens that are going to be representing us on Metro Plan as well as on Sunrail.
Okay. I trust that you know these individuals, and they will do a good job. I do not know either of them.
Okay.
In the future, if it's possible, to have like a little bio or something
Absolutely.
about the person before we vote, because
I'm
I'm blindly trusting you that they're fabulous appointments.
Commissioner Lockhart, I do appreciate your trust, and I will make sure that that doesn't happen again.
Thank you.
Commissioner Herr.
Are these new roles?
No, these are roles that have been in place from day one.
So when we look at the county board appointment list,
This is not for us, this is for citizens that we appoint periodically.
Board appointments.
so I'm going to keep going. When we look at the county-wide list of citizen appointments made by this board, are they on it?
They should be.
Can we double-check that?
Okay, I'll make sure of that.
They're not on it.
No.
They're not on it, because I know what the list looks like, because when you come in as a new person and you try to assimilate all this, you start to figure out the gaps in history, that's, the recording history is missing, and they are not on it.
Okay.
So I would have never known that they existed. So I'll go back to your original question of, is this a chairman's appointment or a board appointment? Because to get it on that list, is it a district appointment? That matters, because there is wild confusion with that list. So I'm not making this bigger than your motion, just to be
Okay.
clear, but in order to make it clean as it translates, and is that still you, Shani, that manages that list?
I do manage that list. The appointments that he's referring to are not on the list. The list is really just like smaller committees that each district is responsible for appointing a certain number of people to.
County committees.
Correct.
And these are regional committees.
Correct.
And I concur with Commissioner Herr and others. I think this is leading. I don't think that Commissioner Delory has any problem with this, that maybe that would be really enlightening if we had those appointments on the list also, just so we knew who they were and
We
everything.
can put them on the list,
Yeah.
that's not a problem.
No, and I know that. I'm just saying that that would be nice to do. I don't know these folks either, or at least I don't remember, but I do trust that, that you're putting good people on these boards.
Well, and nor do I don't know the people, nor do I know the role, nor do I know that, so
Well,
it's
the
just
Sunrail
tough.
Advisory Committee, basically, you have to live in the county, and you have to ride Sunrail at least once a week on Sunrail. It's not just in person.
I do understand that that is just a citizen advisory board.
That's all it is. And then the same thing with the Metro Plan. They're looking for people that use our trails, our roads. It's about transportation. It's basically just citizen advisory in its broadest sense. It's a recommendation board to the overall Metro Plan board. Mr. Chipak, you were going to say something?
Yes, if I might. As sitting commissioners, you're appointed to various regional boards. And when you're sitting on those regional boards, a lot of times there are citizen committees that are applicable to that commission or that regional board. It's logical that the sitting commissioner representing the county does the appointments of the regional boards that he or she is appointed to. There's a logical flow that way. Working with staff in the future and through the county manager's office, it does make sense that we can vet and provide the bios beforehand to the greatest degree possible in those situations. But in this situation, since Commissioner Delory does sit on those two boards, it does make sense for him to proffer the citizen representatives for consideration by this board.
In the future, we'll make sure that that is corrected.
Yes.
Commissioner Lockhart, excuse me. I'm looking at her, and I'm...
No, it's okay. We look alike. Would it be possible to have, as a part of any of those regional boards, an understanding of that it would be an expectation of that board member when they serve on that board? I feel like when sometimes like we shift, like I was never on the planning council, and then I wound up on the planning council, and so I really didn't know all of the things that were going to face me when I joined the planning council. And I know I don't know whose responsibility this will become, but I feel like it maybe needs to be a part of almost like the new board member orientation. Like, here are all of the boards that you might be appointed to, and these will be your responsibilities. We don't really have that. I mean, we have, here's your pass to get into the building, and here's your parking spot number, and don't talk to each other about something you're going to vote on. But the greater
I used the public
detail
bathroom for a month.
of the job itself, like with those kinds of things, would be super, super helpful. And I'm happy to volunteer to help put that together, or have my office help put that together. But, at some point, we're going to need to maybe do something like that.
I will have to defer to the gentleman sitting to my right.
We will start making that a project, and I'll sit down with Shaney and staff, and we'll try and figure out the best way to educate all of you on the respective boards and what your roles would be.
Well, and it's not about like telling us what we are supposed to do now necessarily, but truly, if and when we get a different assignment, or a new board member comes on, I'm just trying to think ahead and for the next generation that will not have the benefit of a Diane Merck to write by hand, keep track of who does what, where, and when. We are losing some historical.
So we could put a book together describing what each board is, so that whoever is assigned to that board would know what that board does. I mean, I don't know what else to say on that.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful.
Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to go back to my original request, because I think that is a wonderful thing to happen, but the shorter-term request is that we make sure that we are all knowledgeable about what appointments we need to be doing when we are on those boards, and that they are documented, so we are being transparent with our constituency and with one another about how that's happening. So, and quite honestly, the leadership in those organizations turns over every now and then, and we could miss an appointment if our records aren't up to, so for our representation purposes, we should be making sure that we know what we're supposed to be doing. So for me, it was about appointments. I'm happy to let the board that we're sitting on do the briefing and the training and all of the good stuff that happens when somebody new comes on to that. But if we are being represented by citizens that we're supposed to be appointing, or any other members, because we have staff that's appointed to some of these committees as well, and if we're missing a beat on that, we're not necessarily as representative as we should be.
Any other discussion? But we'll try to address, we will address all those items. Seeing no other discussion, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion passes. Thank you. That is end of my report. Future agenda items, we have none. Public comments that are not addressed or not related to the agenda. Do you have any written requests?
No, sir.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on anything that is not on the agenda for future items? Seeing none, we'll close that. Before we adjourn, I'd just like to go down the dais. Mr. Applegate, do you have any additional items?
No, sir.
Chip?
No, sir.
Commissioners?
Be safe.
The only thing I'd like to add is that I know there's got a pending storm coming. Just want to wish everyone safety and their families, and thank you for your hard work. This meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you.